Hi everyone. I hope everybody's doing well today. I wanted to share a piece from today from my book, The One Life We're Given. See, Zuzu? One Life We're Given. And it's about a time when my father was toward the end of his life. I realized all of a sudden that there was a saying that he used to speak all the time, and one my grandfather and his father, and I suddenly became aware that these sayings formed a legacy that I didn't know I was a part of. So this is called Legacy. It's on page 13 in The One Life We're Given. Sitting beside my father during his last months, I became aware of this legacy, this lineage that goes back 4 generations. My great-grandfather was a leather worker. He made saddles for a feudal baron in Russia. He endured his uncertain livelihood by pouring himself into his craft. During a pogrom, he was chased by Cossacks into the Dnieper River, but wasn't killed because they didn't want their horses to get cold. After this, it took him 14 years and 3 trips across the Atlantic to bring our family to America. Toward the end of his life, on summer nights in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, he would say, "When in trouble, wait till you see a way out." His son, my grandfather, was a gentle soul who became a letterpress printer in New York City, only to lose his job during the Great Depression. Even with little to eat, he'd bring strangers home for dinner. When Grandma Minnie, who I mentioned other days, when Grandma would pull him aside and say, "We don't have enough," he'd kiss her cheek and say, "Break whatever we have in half. It will be enough." When his son, my 93-year-old father, was in the hospital, bobbing inside his stroke-laden body, I sat with my mother at the foot of his bed. As we watched him sink away from us, she shook her head and said, "I don't know how he did it." She stared into the trail of their lives and said, no matter what we'd face, he'd always say, "Give me a minute and I'll figure out what to do." They are all gone now as I read this, and I braid their lessons into a rope I can use to see a way out, to know there will be enough, to figure out what to do. In the midst of trouble, we're always challenged to stand in the river till we're shown how to stay alive and keep giving. So I want to invite you today to think about your family, and it may not be a positive example. It may be a negative or a difficult, painful example. But are there sayings or fragments of deep messages that form a legacy that you might turn to help you endure what we're going through? So I hope you're well, and I hope you can keep growing in place. Susan, let's give a dose of Zuzu since she was absent yesterday, chasing something that she heard.
Zuzu, say hello.